Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. Firstly, I'd like to start by thanking officers who've turned this report around, because I know we put a bit of pressure on it, or a bit of pressure was put on by some people to turn this around for this committee meeting, and it's been done. So thanks for that. I agree with just about everything that Councillor Orban has said, especially around the need for us to make a stand on this. And in fact, that is exactly what we did at the last committee meeting. We had a very long debate, we covered lots of issues, and we voted overwhelmingly to refuse this application for a number of the reasons that are outlined in this report. So what we're here to do today is to agree what those reasons are, so that we can finally put this refusal to bed, so we don't have to come back to this. We don't have to come back to this at any future committee meetings. Now, the report outlines a number of the reasons. I guess in terms of ease for us, the first one around affordable housing, that's documented in the report. I suspect we can all agree to that reason. I take on board what the report states about the risk if it goes to appeal, but I think we've said we accept that. So there's the first reason that we can agree on, I believe. When it comes to, in the order that you spoke about them, flood risk, I should speak for myself. I understand that KCC have said we've looked into this and we think what's being proposed and what potential conditions what conditions there are mitigate this, but I don't agree with it and I don't accept it. We've seen over the last few weeks, when it rains heavily, Tivoli Brook reappears and floods. So in effect, what we're saying, if this goes ahead, is that we're agreeing an application to build on Tivoli Brook, which doesn't make any sense to me at all, and I don't think it makes sense to a lot of people. So I believe we should document that as a reason for refusal. On the CCG side, I understand what's being said. The CCG have asked for some money, and it's been accepted or when they were asked a year ago, and it's been accepted that is sufficient. I don't think we believe it is sufficient. We think it is insufficient, and there is I can't agree that there is no discernible impact on the care currently being received by residents in Salmerston Ward, and this will have a detrimental effect. I think that is what we will be saying. It will have a detrimental effect, and it isn't sufficient what they're proposing. And as far as the impact on biodiversity goes, whatever else is said, the environmental impact statements and any other environmental statements are woefully inadequate. And we've seen from a number of different local residents that we know there are various birds that breed on that site. We know there are skylarks that breed there. They've been seen by people, and in fact, as has been mentioned, a number of residents are so concerned about it that they are doing their own survey to prove this fact, and I'm sure that will be ready to be presented by the council, by us, at any appeal that might come forward to prove actually there are these birds there. And one other thing I just wanted to mention is the lack of hares on the site. Apparently there are no hares there, and I think it might have been, I can't remember if it was mentioned, but maybe we should be asking the police about this, because the police know there are hares on the site, because the police are often up there clearing off illegal hare coursers who wouldn't be up there hare coursing if there were no hares. And obviously their hair coursing needs to be stopped, because if they keep going on, there will be no hares. But they can provide the evidence about that. So I believe we've refused this application. We've got these reasons that I believe we could all happily agree to. I know it all now needs to be documented a bit more, but I would propose that those reasons that I've outlined here are agreed and accepted for the refusal of this planning application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Before I bring in Councillor Keane, Mr. Livingstone.
Thank you, Chair. I think just to pick up a point with regards to just taking flood risk as a point, the development's it's fundamentally not building on Tivoli Brook. I just want to make that quite clear. Tivoli Brook is over 20 metres away. It's not related to this watercourse. It's specifically shown in the flood risk assessment that it's not on this site, and therefore this will not build on Tivoli Brook, just to make that absolutely clear for members. Again, this comes down to evidence. This comes down to the fact that it's been modelled by the applicant very specifically to look at surface water flooding. It's acknowledged as an issue on this site. It's not being hidden away, it's being mitigated by the development. That's why they're proposing the mitigation that they're providing. And so a refusal which seems to disregard the information that's been provided would be very damaging to the council, in my view. In addition, the point with regards to what the NHS and CCG have asked for, again, it comes back to what we can deal with under planning obligations and what we can't. We cannot require more GPs to be employed by virtue of this application. It's not directly applicable to a direct link that planning obligations can deal with. It's subject to lots of separate processes. So I think that it's really important that members understand that infrastructure is a key issue strategically and locally with regards to this. What planning can do with regards to infrastructure and health infrastructure is look at, can existing facilities expand, and then it's the responsibility of the local care provider to staff that service. It's not the responsibility of planning to do that. In terms of impact on biodiversity, again, I go back to Natural England's response, and I go back to KCC Biodiversity's response, specifically looking at what's been proposed, and also very specifically about the mitigation that's being put forward, and specifically the landscape and ecology condition. Just to quote the report in terms of the specific mitigation measures that would be put in place, which would cover breeding birds on site, specific lighting scheme to minimise impact on nocturnal animals, new homeowner information pack, strengthen boundary vegetation through infill planting, open grassland, wildflower meadow. If we go back to the proposal, you can see the open space again, which would be conditioned to provide additional species. And Councillor Garner, in the very first debate, we talked about that, and you obviously referred to the fact that the biodiversity and horticultural officer is supportive of the scheme by virtue of the fact that they are providing more species than are currently in situ on the site there at the moment, which will bring forward more biodiversity impacts. Habitat enhancement for nesting birds, especially on the southwest boundary of the site, including bird boxes. Again, that provision is within the application, and therefore to go against that on the basis of a concern without having a full awareness of these issues would be, again, it would be a very concerning and damaging precedent on that basis. Now, the report specifically looks at what would be a cogent reason for refusal that would be able to be argued at appeal. That's why officers have outlined a reason for refusal based on affordable housing. That was a consensus view that members took. It was a concern that was outlined by the majority of members, and that is why the report has outlined that specific reason in a bit more detail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Livingstone. A couple of points from me before, again, I will come to you, Councillor Keane, I haven't forgotten you. If members of the public can keep their voices down, I know this is a very serious matter for yourselves and your concerns, but we can hear up this end conversations quite loud. Also, I think it's fair to say the reports that this committee get, obviously from officers, and not necessarily the recommendations, but we have detailed reports, as we're hearing more so on this application, but it's the same even if it's a small application. The officer's role is, as you've seen, to give us as members the report from all the agencies and who are involved in a site. And I know we have a, if I can say, a lot of talent on this committee, and I mean that. There's people here who know what they're really talking about on various subjects of nature and everything else, but we really must listen to what and read what is in these reports, because they are the, those people are the top people. Whether we agree or not agree, that is up to you. But I think it's quite evident that I know you have concerns, but I think that must be put to you, that what's in our report has come from the appropriate people, and we have to take that on board. Councillor Keane.